Hello everybody and welcome back to Faster Than a Bullet. I'm your host Liam Plutner, and this week we've got a lot to talk about. So first of all, we're going to be reviewing NASCAR, IndyCar and MotoGP and Moto2 and Moto3, and we're going to be previewing the first Formula 1 race of the year as well as the IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader in Phoenix. Let's get straight into it, and I'm also going to be previewing Formula 2 and Formula 3. But let's start, of course, with the season opener. The first thing that happened at the weekend, which was MotoGP, because that was in Thailand this weekend, and Aprilia absolutely dominated affairs, finishing inside 4 of the top 5 positions in what was a phenomenal performance by the Italian manufacturer. Of course, they have 2 teams, Aprilia and Trackhouse, and all 4 of those bikes finished inside the top 5. So we'll begin very quickly with the race results, so I'll just get those up for you really quickly. If it lets me, there we go. So we'll have a quick look at what the race results were, and we'll get straight into this. So, of course, taking the victory was Marco Bezzecchi for Aprilia, and then after that was Pedro Acosta, who is currently actually the championship leader. Okay, here we go. And then taking yet another podium is Raul Fernandez. Now, there's a few really important stats here for me anyway in regards to this race, and both of them are revolve around the number 4, because out of the top 5 bikes, as I said, 4 of them were Aprilias. By the way, the lighting is not very good, so apologies. I'll close. That's probably a little bit worse. I'm trying to find the right balance here. There we go. So in terms of the actual results, 4 is a key number, because it is, as I said, 4 of the top 5 were Aprilias, because apart from Pedro Acosta, the rest of the top 5 was made up of Aprilias. Marco Bezzecchi winning, Raul Fernandez in 3rd, Jorge Martin in 4th, and of course Aguirre, now in his sophomore season of MotoGP, finishing in 5th. The highest Ducati was Fabio Di Gianantonio in 6th, and Francesco Bagnaia barely finished inside the top 10 and almost got beaten by Luca Marini's Honda. That is how bad his race went. It was a good debut for Diogo Moreira, who finished in 13th. He was running, in fact, if he had held on in front of some of the riders he was ahead of, he could have finished as high as inside the top 10, but he finished 13th in the end. And Yamaha had an absolutely disastrous weekend, finishing basically last, because of course Fermin Aldeguer wasn't at the Grand Prix, so Michele Pirro stepped in for him, and Michele Pirro finished last because he doesn't race in MotoGP very often, and he's a test rider at the end of the day. So let's have a look first of all at Aprilia and how they managed to win. So basically, coming into the weekend, it looked like it was going to be Aprilia that were the favourites. I mean, the other 4 stat that I wanted to mention was that Aprilia have now won the last 4 races in a row. Now, the coincidence is, of course, that Marc Marquez hasn't been racing in the last 4 races, apart from this time, but he had a tyre blowout. But I think that the main reason why Aprilia won was because it suited the track. The Aprilia suited the track, and Marco Bezzecchi was a man on a mission in a league of his own. He won the race by 5.5 seconds from Pedro Acosta, which is very, very impressive. He rode absolutely brilliantly throughout the race, and he fully deserved the victory in what was a commanding win. Nobody could touch him. The sprint, of course, was a different story. He crashed in the sprint, and Pedro Acosta took his first ever win in MotoGP in any way, shape or form, because of course Pedro Acosta had never won a race at all in MotoGP, despite the fact that he has been consistently one of the best riders in the series. He finally took his first win, although it was a sprint win, and he's still yet to win a Grand Prix yet, as I just completely took out my mic stand from the actual thing. And he was absolutely brilliant, Pedro Acosta, yesterday. However, at the end of the day, Bezzecchi was the one who took the victory. Acosta did carry the KTM team, however. He finished 12 seconds ahead of any other KTM, because Brad Binder was all the way down in 7th, 17.3 seconds behind. And then you had Maverick Vinales, who finished 36.5 seconds down in 16th, and Enea Bastianini in 12th, 23.3 seconds back. So a very, very, very good result for Aprilia, and a very good result for Pedro Acosta. Jorge Martin had a very good drive considering he hasn't been riding much on the bike since he has had so many accidents in the last year, but he rode to fourth, which was a good result. Raul Fernandez had a brilliant opening start to the race, but he slowly lost his tyres as the race went on, but in the end still managed to come home third to take yet another podium, and he is very quickly proving himself to be a very good number one at Trackhouse, and somebody who, when the track and when the bike are working in tandem, he can certainly perform at a high level. And Ayagura finishing in fifth, he had a very, very good and steady race. He just about finished behind Martin, and he almost beat the world champion on the same bike, which is very, very impressive. And as I said, he's in his sophomore season now, so we're going to be expecting a lot more from him. Of course, Honda bottled the opportunity to sign him, but I think he'll look back on that now and be like, thank goodness that they didn't hire me. Hang on. That's probably a bit better, isn't it? Hopefully it is. Basically, I've got my light on over here. I didn't even realize I had a light on over there on my desk. So yeah, that was sort of a brief summarization of the MotoGP, but there's still a little bit more to talk about, especially Ducati. What was that? Ducati had an absolutely disastrous weekend. Marc Marquez was the only Ducati that was really running well throughout the race, and then his tyre blew out with just a few laps to go of the actual Grand Prix. He was running inside the podium places, fighting with Raul Fernandez and Pedro Acosta for second, and he would have finished third because Fernandez's tyres fell off a cliff. However, it was an abysmal into the race for Marquez with the tyre blowing out, and a lot of people are saying it was because of the curb that he rode. So not a very good race for him. But the problem for Ducati was they didn't have anybody else to rely on that could actually pick up the points. And one of the only other people that they had was Marc's brother Alex, and he crashed a lap later. So a pretty dismal weekend for the Marquez brothers in general, and one that they would like to forget. I mean, Marc did score well in the sprint, however, still not a good weekend for him. And then, as I said, they did not have anybody else to rely on. In fact, the best two riders after that were Di Giannantonio, who is on the brand new bike this year, and Morbidelli, who is on the older bike. Pecco Bagnaia was nowhere to be seen, and in fact, the only time we actually saw him was when he was getting passed by Morbidelli at the line. He had a very, very poor race, and he's only 10th in the rider standings, behind Morbidelli, behind Marquez, even though Marquez retired in the main race, and Di Giannantonio. So, Di Giannantonio is the top Ducati this season, which just proves how much of a disaster this season has been so far for the team, although we are only one round in, to be fair. I mean, it's bad when Morbidelli, who is on the GP25, which was a really bad bike for everybody apart from Marc Marquez, is doing better than Bagnaia on the new 26. Testing went well for Bagnaia, but he's just not been at the races this season. Honda looked okay at times, but I think they're going to be in a similar position to last season, where they're going to be quicker than Yamaha at most races, and maybe in some races quicker than the likes of the KTMs. On occasion, I'm saying, but they're still not there. They are making a lot more progress than Yamaha, however, and to be fair, Luca Marini and Johan Zarco had very good rides, and so did Johan Mir. In fact, if Johan Mir hadn't had his mechanical failure, he would have actually been my rider of the race, because he was absolutely brilliant. He was inside the top 10. I think he was running about 7th at one point. I think he was best of the rest until Di Giannantonio passed him. And then just after Di Giannantonio passed him, he started having the mechanical problems. So Mir was on to finish in 7th place. Which was a brilliant performance from him, and again showing how good a rider Johan Mir is. I was thinking about it, I was mulling it over, and I really came to the conclusion that Honda actually have a really good lineup. I mean, you've got Zarco, who's a Grand Prix winner, you've got Moreira, who's a Moto2 champion and a very, very talented prospect. You've got a world champion in Johan Mir, and then you've got a reliable rider in Luca Marini, who I think he only had 1 or 2 crashes last year in the entire season. It took until the final few rounds for him to actually have a crash, which shows how reliable he was, by contrast to Mir, who often has his own incidents, although this time it wasn't his fault. He was running really well, and it's unfortunate for him that he didn't score inside the points. Then we move on to Moto2, and because, there's not really much else to talk about. Yamaha were absolutely abysmal, and there was a lot that happened in Moto2. A lot of collisions and a lot of accidents. Thankfully, everybody's okay. David Alonso had a really bad accident, and thankfully he's okay. But a really, really crazy race with a lot of different cautions and issues. And to be honest, there's not really much to talk about. The race in general wasn't exactly incredible. But one thing that I will say is that it's a very good field in Moto2. That is one thing that I've really come to the conclusion about. I want to see if there's any way. Okay, there we go. I can move my. There we go. Manu Gonzalez, unsurprisingly, won, but Izan Guevara pushed him right to the very end of the race. Gonzalez managed to get the switch back on him and won the race by millimeters, basically. Danny Holgado, who's expected to be a title contender this season alongside Gonzalez, also had a very good drive. But also, Ivan Ortola and Colin Vire also had very good weekends. And I'm just thinking, looking at, the top 5, that is a really, really good, field. I think all 5 of those guys have potential to ride in either World Superbikes or in MotoGP. Both of them are absolutely brilliant. And that's not even looking at the retirements, because, of course, Rueda retired, Alonso retired, Piqueras retired from the race. And then Senna just finished down in 18th. He took pole, and he probably would have had a good race if he hadn't been involved in the collisions. So honestly, there's not really much to talk about with Moto2. Moto3 was very, very interesting, though, because what happened was at the start of the race, there was a pack of 6, right, that were dominating. It was Almansa, Max Quiles, Valentin Peroni, Alvaro Carpe, and then you had this young man, Pratima, and he really impressed me. Veda Pratima, he was absolutely fantastic. And by the way, I can call him a young man because he's a year younger than me. I can't believe I'm getting to the point where there are Moto3, Moto2 riders that are younger than me. I think there's going to be a Moto2 rider younger than me soon, which is crazy. I don't know if there actually is already. I might actually go and check that. Tell you what, I'm going to go and check that. Are there any Moto2 riders that are younger than me? I need to check. Basically, I was born on the 8th of September 2007, so I need to check if there was any born after that. Let's have a little look. Guevara's not going to be younger than me. No. See, I'm trying to see who's like a rider that's just come up to the Moto2 class. Lunetta's 19. Is Piqueras younger than me? No, he's not. Piqueras is just about older than me. That was a really, really bad voice crack. I was going to say Fursat was a bit older than me. Oh my goodness. There almost is. Alvaro Ferrandez is almost younger than me. He's 6 days older than me. Oh no. That is scary. That is scary, man. That is so scary. There's actually going to be riders that are like almost younger than me. I don't think Danny Munoz is younger than me. I could be wrong on that. I don't think he is. Oh gosh. Oh man, that's scary. But yeah, there are a few Moto3 riders that are younger than me, but Pratima really impressed me. But one thing that he did do, also Adrian Fernandez was in that pack as well. One thing that he did do, which ruined the race of Peroni Carpa, his own race, and Fernandez's race, was battle so hard for 3rd place. That man wanted a podium, and as a result of those guys battling so hard, Almansa and Quiles set off into the sunset, and basically what happened was Quiles just sat behind Almansa until the last 2 laps, and then he started fighting him, and right at the end, Quiles went down the inside of Almansa into the final corner, and Almansa switched back to him and won by 0.003 seconds, which just shows that was incredible. It was a really good end to the race. Casey O'Gorman finished in 11th, and in case you don't know, right, I do have a little bit of bias. I will admit that. My biases in Moto3 are for David Munoz and Casey O'Gorman. David Munoz just because he's a fun rider to watch, and Casey O'Gorman because he's Irish. I don't have any biases in Moto2, to be fair. And then in MotoGP I like Moreira, but I can be unbiased. I am unbiased. So yeah, a very, very good ride from those guys, especially from Pratima. I was very impressed by him. That is his, I think his first ever Moto3 race, if I'm not wrong, which again shows his potential. Especially because you don't often see riders from Indonesia, which is where he's from, competing so well. Was that his first ever Moto3 race? I think it was. Yeah, it was his first ever Moto3 race, and he was battling for the podium, which shows how impressive he was. The fastest lap was by Valentino Peroni. Funnily enough, the only race where the fastest lap wasn't by the winner was in Moto3, because Peroni finished third and won the fastest lap, whereas in Moto2 it was Gonzalez, and in MotoGP it was Bezzecchi. But now that we've talked about MotoGP a little bit, let's go, and Moto2 and Moto3, let's go straight into IndyCar. And I was for about 10 seconds, I was excited to talk about it, and then I just remembered Alex Palou exists. This guy is... Nobody can stop him. It's scary. He doesn't even start on pole, and yet he still manages to win by like 10 seconds, I think it was, from anybody else. He's so good. It's scary. However, there are a few drives I really want to point out in terms of how good they were. The main one I wanted to point out was David Malukas. Malukas basically... his tire, what happened was at the very start of the race, he went down the inside of, I think it was Marcus Armstrong or Romain Grosjean, and he flat spotted his tires massively. He managed to stay ahead, and then he got a puncture because of how much he had flat spotted the tires. He didn't hit the wall or anything like that, which is what normally happens when you get a puncture, or hit another car. It was just because of that one lock up, and basically it just completely screwed his tires, and he went a lap down. Now a caution came out because I think it was because Scott Dixon went off the track, and then he managed to get himself back on the lead lap and fought his way through from 20th to 13th, which was a good drive. But the best drive of the weekend was from Joseph Newgarden. I was convinced after qualifying, this guy, he is mudded, he is done. It's like the Jamie Carragher quote, which is, leave the football before the football leaves you. The football's left him at this top level. Leave the motorsport before the motorsport leaves you. The motorsport's left him at this top level. I was wrong. I apologise, Joseph. To be fair, it was a great strategy from the Penske team, and he managed to get himself into 7th by the end of the race in what was a fantastic drive. And then on the other hand, you had Andretti completely screwing Ericsson over by keeping him out for so long. That ruined his chances of a podium, and he ended up being so slow that he was basically a moving chicane for Kyle Kirkwood, for Scott McLaughlin, and for the McLarens. And so he basically, like, as soon as the McLarens were behind him, he was like, nope, no, I'm going into the pits, I'm bailing out. So very good strategy from Joseph Newgarden, but my biggest shout out of all, apart from Palou obviously, has to go to Dale Coyne. Dale Coyne, man, they had a phenomenal weekend. Now people will say, oh, they qualified 3rd and 5th, finishing 8th and 10th is a disaster. It is not. Dale Coyne is the smallest team in IndyCar by a country mile, apart from maybe Juncos and Prema. And now, of course, Prema weren't at the first round, so you can't really count them. So that leaves you with Dale Coyne. Dale Coyne had the smallest team, and yet they have one of the best driver lineups when it comes to road and street courses, because they've got Dennis Hauger, one of the greatest Indy NXT drivers of all time, one of the most dominant Indy NXT drivers of all time, formerly known as Indy Lights. And they have a former Formula 1 podium finisher, and somebody who's ran on pole at St. Petersburg and led laps, and he would have won if it wasn't for Scott McLaughlin. I'm still angry about that, by the way, because I am kind of a bit of a Grosjean fanboy when it comes to IndyCar, but I am unbiased, okay? I can be unbiased if I need to be, and I can. Sometimes Grosjean has been a lunatic, sometimes he has been a genius. And that time he was being a genius, he was driving brilliantly, and then McLaughlin just took him out, and McLaughlin nearly did the same thing to Kirkwood yesterday, but Kirkwood managed to, but then he realised, wait a minute, this has happened before. It's like the clip of Leonardo DiCaprio from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where he's like, I'm on. Or Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future, where he's like, I've seen this one, it's a classic. So I think McLaughlin learned his lesson there, but Alex Palou, man, You can't stop him. Like, the only way that Alex Palou is not going to win the championship this year is if the world just suddenly blows up or a meteor hits Ganassi. Like, the dude would still probably win if a meteor hit the Ganassi headquarters. And by the way, I'm hoping that there wouldn't be anybody inside the headquarters. Like, you can't stop him. He's so unbeatable. The guy is just, he's incredible. Probably one of the, in my opinion, right? And I've said this for a few months now, he is the greatest IndyCar road and street driver ever. He's like the SVG of IndyCar when it comes to like road and street courses. The dude is unstoppable. And he won the Indy 500 last season, so he's figuring out ovals now as well, which is scary. It's like when, you know, Carlos Sainz finally figures out how to manage his tires, the dude will be unstoppable. Like, oh my god, the guy is so incredible. Like, there's really not much else to talk about when it comes to IndyCar, because I mean the guy was just phenomenal. Like, by the way, as I said, shout out to Dennis Hauger and Romain Grosjean. They had really good races. McLaren were steady, 3rd and 5th. Obviously, we're not going to talk about Nolan Siegel. Let's just pretend he isn't even a McLaren driver, because he shouldn't be. Bit of a disastrous race for Will Power and Scott Dixon. Dixon's was because of a problem when it came to changing the tyres, and then Power just decided to hit the wall. And I feel really bad for Mick Schumacher, because on his debut race he got took out by Stingray Robb and Ferrucci, and people will go, oh, you can't blame Ferrucci for that. I'm going to, okay? No, I'm joking. I feel bad for Schumacher because it's his debut race, and already things have not started well for him, and they're going to an oval next time out. I mean, in fact, the next race is an oval, but to be fair, after that are 4 street and road courses, which will help him out massively, including Arlington, which nobody has raced around, so it's a level pegging. The only problem is that he's driving for Rahal, who have been absolutely terrible sometimes this season, last season I should say. All I know is that the inevitable will happen, because if you don't know already, if you don't know the IndyCar lore, I will fill you in. What tends to happen is at the Indy Road course, Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan qualify ridiculously well. I'm talking like all 3 cars usually in the Fast 6. And then at the 500, they barely managed to qualify for the race. Like, Graham Rahal didn't even qualify for it one year, just after having a phenomenal Indy GP. I'll go and find it. I think it was 2024 when Stephen Wilson got injured. I think it was 2024. Stephen Wilson got injured, and what happened was it 2024? It was either 2024 or 2023. So this is the problem. My time goes by and round, and it scares me. Was it then? Oh no, it wasn't. Sorry, it was 2023, because that's right, because Siegel didn't qualify in 2024. Basically, what happened was in 2023. Graham Rahal didn't qualify for the race, but was able to race because Stephen Wilson got injured in practice. Now, if you actually look at his results, in the round before that, he finished inside the top 10 at the the GMR Grand Prix, right? And he qualified in 8th. For context, Christian Lundgaard qualified in first, his teammate, and Jack Harvey qualified in 4th. And he led laps of the race, and finished 48 seconds off the win, because Alex Palou once again just existed. But that's my point. Rahal are always good on the road course, on the Indy road course, and they never qualify, or barely qualify, for the 500. And by the way, we don't know who's going to be entering into the 500. There's only 4 confirmed entries, and that's Hunter Ray and the Arrow McLaren, Jack Harvey for Dreyer and Rainbow, Ed Carpenter for ECR, and then Helio Castroneves for Meyer Shank. Those are the only 4 that we have confirmed, and we don't even know if Prema are actually going to be on the grid by that point, because honestly, Prema is an absolute mess right now. And honestly, that deserves its own video. So that's, I think that's pretty much everything I need to say on IndyCar. And then we get into NASCAR, which is the final topic before we get into the previews. And Tyler Reddick is absolutely unstoppable. He's so good, even SVG couldn't beat him on a road course. This is the first time in NASCAR history where one driver has won the first 3 races of the season. Now in F1, that is standard practice. It is standard practice for a driver to win the first 3 races of the season. And Reddick's done it this season, and it's the first time in NASCAR's long history. NASCAR's existed for longer than F1 has. It started in 1949, and it's the first time that's happened. That is how good he is. That is how insane 2311 are. Like, Bubba Wallace nearly got another top 10. The dude is on an absolute roll right now. Oh, and by the way, Reddick isn't even my driver of the race. My driver of the race, despite the fact that he finished down in, what was it, like, 20th? Something like that? 14th he finished, is Connor Zilic. Because Connor Zilic, anytime that man was running near the front, somebody nuked into him at turn 1. I feel so bad for him. Like, the guy had a phenomenal race. He started in 25th. He managed to work his way up into the top 15, and then the first stage ended. I think that's what happened. Is that right? Yep, he was 14th at the end of stage 1. Then he gets nuked on a restart. He's 4th, and he ends up finishing. Oh wait a minute, sorry, that's where he finished in the end. Sorry, I was gonna say I didn't think he had gotten. I think what happened was he had pitted at the end of the first stage, and then at the beginning of the second stage, he gets absolutely nuked and sent to the back. And by the end of the race, and it happens to him not once but twice. He's not running 4th the second time, and he still manages to finish up in 14th. Honestly, nobody was quicker than Connor Zilic yesterday, and Zilic would have won the race if he had actually not been taken out so many times. But yeah, Reddick is unstoppable, man. I feel bad for Hocevar as well, because on the last lap he got nuked. A brilliant drive from Reddick and from Shane Van Gisbergen. Michael McDowell had a really good race as well, to be fair to him, to finish up in 5th. Very good strategy from the Spire team. Christopher Bell finally got his first proper top 10 finish of the season, his first proper actual finish, because of course last time out Carson Hocevar nuked him at Atlanta, and then in Daytona he didn't finish. But it was a phenomenal performance from Reddick, and honestly I cannot see I cannot see him winning next weekend, but he has been phenomenal and unstoppable. The guy's an actual machine. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else I really need to shout out, because I mean, it was a great performance from Connor Zilic. Connor Zilic gets my driver of the day vote. And then, I mean, honestly, Ty Gibbs had a good race as well. Gibbs and McDowell were on the same strategy, and they managed to both finish inside the top 5. So well done to Ty Gibbs. He's actually 17th in the standings. Is he ahead of any of his teammates? I need to have a look at that. Is he ahead of Yeah, he's ahead of Bell. And he is... Hang on. He's ahead of Briscoe as well. The only Joe Gibbs car that's ahead of him. Oh my god, no, never mind. He's the lead. Holy crap. Ty Gibbs is the lead Gibbs car. In a lineup of Christopher Bell, who was brilliant last season, Denny Hamlin, who many people would argue should have won the championship last season, and he was moments away from winning it, and Chase Briscoe, who is a NASCAR champion. Ty Gibbs is the leading driver. I know we've only had 3 rounds, but that is mental, and it shows how bad Joe Gibbs Racing have been this season. And then you just have 2311, who are just absolutely dominating with Reddick and Bubba Wallace. Even Riley Herbst isn't doing that bad. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's not doing that bad, is he? Oh no, he's 25th. I mean, he had a good start to the season. I remember Daytona, but yeah, he didn't have a very good last 2 races. But still, SVG is up in 5th in the standings, and SVG, I think, is genuinely now a contender for the chase, because he is picking up his pace on the ovals, although to be fair, Daytona and Atlanta are 2 of the easier ovals this season, and it will be a true test in the next few rounds when we go to Vegas and Phoenix. Vegas especially, Vegas has got that tri-oval, man. Darlington will be difficult too because it's so short. But man, it was a boring race to a degree. The strategies were rather interesting, but it was quite chaotic. Also, didn't somebody withdraw from the race in Kota? I'm pretty sure. Who was it? One of the drivers, basically, left his car. Alex Bowman, that's right. Bowman basically fell ill, and Mike Snyder filled in for him and finished 36th for him. Briscoe, of course, didn't finish the race. He was the only one that retired. So that's NASCAR done. So now it's time for us to get into the previews for Phoenix and the Australian Grand Prix. F1's back, baby. F1 is back. F1 is back. F1 is back. Yes. So let's get into the previews. Next race is going to be Phoenix for NASCAR. And it is going to be a double header with NASCAR, which I am very much looking forward to. And the favourite for this race is going to be Christopher Bell, because he's won the last 2 years and been absolutely lightning quick. Other previous winners of the race that are currently on the grid include William Byron, Chase Briscoe, Joey Logano, and Kyle Busch. Denny Hamlin actually won it back in 2012 as well. So quite a few drivers that have won races here. The biggest winner, of course, is Kevin Harvick at the circuit. 5 victories for him, which is very impressive. So his analysis is going to be even more interesting than it usually is, considering the guy has dominated around the place. And the biggest winner is actually Stuart Haas. Of course, they don't exist anymore. It's Haas now, just Haas. And I don't think that they're going to be winning the race because, the fact that they have Cole Custer and only 1 entry. And that's not me dissing Custer at all. They only have 1 entry, and he's not doing that well in the standings, to my knowledge anyway. Where's Cole Custer in the standings? Yeah, dude is in 29th. I don't think he's going to be winning. But the thing is Bell's in 24th. However, Bell is a bit different to Custer because Bell got wiped out in both races while running towards the front. I think he was in the middle of the pack in Daytona, and then at Atlanta he was literally fighting with Bubba Wallace and Carson Hocevar for the win. So there you go. So if I had to predict the winner for Phoenix, I'm going to go with Christopher Bell. And when it comes to dark horses, this is difficult. Difficult one to call. Because Brad Keselowski's never won around there. Because my dark horse for Kota, I think one of my favorites was actually Zilich, and it actually would have paid off if he hadn't been nuked so many times in the race. And I predicted SVG would win, and he finished second. I think I said Bell and Reddick would be up there as well. But I also said Carson Hocevar would be up there. And that Hocevar would... I think I said he'd be a dark horse, but he wasn't in the end. I think the highest he ran was, 15th, or a little bit higher than that. On merit, that is. So that's sort of the NASCAR review done, and we're in the middle of the preview. I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to go for my dark horse, because maybe is William Byron a dark horse? Because, he's 13th in the standings. Yeah, I tell you what, I'm gonna go Byron for my dark. I don't know. Nah, actually, no, that doesn't count. I cannot go with a driver that has been so. It's tricky. I'm trying to think who was good there last year. I'm trying to remember who was good there last year. See, the problem is right. There's so many races that I struggle to remember who wins some of them, unless it's very memorable. I remember Keselowski winning a couple years ago. At Charlotte, I think it was. I could be wrong on that. Who am I gonna pick? Let's have a look. Do you know what? Hang on a sec. I need to look at 2024's results as well, because I need to get a good sample size before I can really give my opinion on this. Because I've got a dark horse in mind for this, based on how he did last year in Phoenix. Um, who was it? Did he do well in that race? Oh my God, Ty Gibbs. Actually, tell you what, Chris Buescher is actually a pretty good bet. Where did he finish last time there? I'm just having a little look at, because I've got a driver in mind, but I don't know if he's a good shout. I don't know. Is he a good shout? I'm trying to figure this out. Is he a good shout for that? I mean, I don't know. Tell you what, I'm gonna say Josh Berry. I'm gonna say Josh Berry is my underdog. I think the dark horse. He's my dark horse. Where did he finish? He finished 26th the previous year, but he was with Stuart Haas, who. But then again, Briscoe finished 9th for them. Tell you what, no, I'm gonna say Chris Buescher. I'm gonna say Chris Buescher because he has run well there the last couple of years, and also he needs to get a good result. Because he's like, oh wait, no, he's 11th in the standings actually. He's not doing as bad as I thought. But yeah, I'm gonna go Buescher as my dark horse. That's NASCAR done. Now we get into the other series that's racing at Phoenix that weekend, and that is IndyCar. And I just think that if there's gonna be a race that Joseph Newgarden wins that isn't Iowa, it's gonna be this one. Like, for me, it's probably gonna be a Penske that wins this. There's 3 drivers I have got in my head when I think of mile ovals, dogleg mile ovals, mile and a half ovals. Mile ovals, sorry, mile and a half kilometer ovals. I think of Joseph Newgarden, David Malukas, and I think of Pato O'Ward. Those are the 3 that I think of when it comes to these sorts of races, especially the first 2. I am expecting Malukas and Newgarden to be front runners. Is there anybody else I've really missed out? Kirkwood, I think will be quick, but I don't know. Rasmussen as well. Actually, Rasmussen is good on those sort of tracks as well. Ferrucci as well, actually. Maybe McLaughlin. But if I had to pick who's gonna win, I'm gonna say David Malukas is finally gonna win an IndyCar. I just think he's got the dog in him, you know, and he's at Penske now. There's no more excuses. He's at Penske now. You know, before you could say, oh, you know, he's at AJ Foyt, and you know, they're not as quick as Penske and Andretti and McLaren, and Ganassi are. But now he's at Penske. He needs to be getting results like that, and I think he will. I think it's either going to be him or Newgarden that wins this, I reckon. So that is my prediction. I think Malukas is going to win, and then the dark horse. I'm probably Rasmussen would be up there for me, for dark horse. Yeah, I'm going to say Rasmussen. Rasmussen's my dark horse, although I don't know if you'd really include him as a dark horse, considering he won the last oval race last year. I'm pretty sure. Was Milwaukee the finale last year? Or was it still Laguna Seca? It was Nashville, sorry. And he won the second last oval of last season. I'm gonna go Rasmussen though, because what'll happen is, right, Rasmussen will either crash or he will finish in the top 10. That is what Rasmussen does. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how IndyCar does there. If I had to predict the podium, I would say first place David Malukas. I would go second place Joseph Newgarden. And I'd probably go Palou third, just because that is the most Palou thing ever. To just finish like just inside the podium places at an oval. That is exactly what he normally does. He always somehow finds a way to finish in a good place. From like, see, the thing is, like, some people are going, oh, it's rigged, and sometimes it feels like that because sometimes he gets so lucky, but sometimes he just has a really good strategy. Barry Wamser, man, that man is an incredible strategist. Like, I don't know if he's got if he's got like direct communication to to the officiators, to the race directors, but. I'm joking, by the way. For legal reasons, I'm joking. So that's IndyCar done, and now we get into Formula 1. Formula 1 is back. Formula One is returning. I'm just gonna very quickly check. I don't know if there is anything else on next weekend because I didn't actually check the calendar. Here we go. I will get it up for you guys right now. Let's see. Upcoming events 2026. There's V8 Supercars, but I don't watch V8 Supercars because my sleep schedule is bad, but I'm not going to make it that bad. Like, thing is, right, for me, you can watch IndyCar and NASCAR and watch V8 Supercars, but you can't watch F1. You can watch F1 and you can watch one of Supercars in NASCAR and IndyCar, but you can't watch the other. Because otherwise, you will be getting absolutely zero sleep. But anyway, F1 is officially back. So F1 is back, and we are going to be having a little look at the Australian Grand Prix, a little preview for the first weekend of the Formula One season. So, the Australian Grand Prix last year was won by Lando Norris, and it was a very, very good wet race drive. Of course, the curse of Australia still exists, in which no Australian driver has ever finished on the podium of a Formula One race in Australia. Except for Daniel Ricciardo in 2014, but he got disqualified. So, again, doesn't count. And Oscar Piastri continued this curse because he finished down in 9th last year. But that's not why we're going to talk about Australia. We're going to talk about Australia because it is the first round of the 2026 F1 season. And I'm going to be going through who I think is going to be winning the race, giving my dark horse, and a preview, basically. So let's begin. Who do I think is going to win? Who do I think is going to be the strongest team? I've got to go Mercedes, man. I've got to go Mercedes. It's such a boring answer, but I just think Mercedes are going to be the quickest team. I am not believing the Ferrari hype until I see it for real. Because, in case you didn't know, Ferrari have a reputation for promising things and never delivering them. They're like that one friend where it's like, oh, I'll go and hang out with you on this day, and then they cancel last minute. You say let's go out, but then I cancel last minute. Is that how it goes? Hang on a second, I'll have to get that song up. In case you don't know what song I'm talking about, I'm talking about a song called "Girl So Confusing" by Charlie XCX and Lord. Let's see. I'll see if I can get the lyric up. Here it is. Let's see. Let's see. You always say let's go out, so we... Oh, wait, no, it's not that one. Where is that? I'm trying to find the bit where it's like... But then I cancel last minute. Which one is it again? Oh, yeah. You'd always say let's go out, but then I cancel last minute. It's like... that is literally like Ferrari in a nutshell. That is literally them. So I'm going to say Mercedes are going to be the strongest team in the first race of the weekend. And first race this weekend of the Formula One season, and I'm gonna say George Russell's gonna win because I just think the dude is incredible. He's a fantastic driver, one of the best in Formula One at the minute, and I think it's gonna be very difficult for anybody to really lay a finger on him. To be honest, I think he's just brilliant at what he does, and he's a good driver, and he's a very talented driver, and I think he is going to be winning in Australia. If I had to predict the podium, I'd probably say Max Verstappen in second, and I'll go Kimi Antonelli in third. I don't think Ferrari are going to be on the podium. I'm sorry, I just do not see it happening. I cannot see it happening. I just think Ferrari are going to bottle it because they always bottle it. They always bottle it. They're like Man United. Well, I mean, right now not, because United have won 11, have been unbeaten in their last 11 games in the Premier League, and they've won quite a lot of them. In case you didn't know, I'm a Man United fan. And honestly, I was buzzing yesterday because Celtic, who are my Scottish team, didn't lose to Rangers. I shouldn't be buzzing about that, but honestly, considering everything that happened. Anyway, yeah, basically, United have drawn 4 of their last 11 games and they've won 7, including against City, Arsenal, Spurs. Actually, beating Spurs isn't an achievement these days, is it? Including Newcastle, City, Arsenal, and Fulham, which is pretty good because Fulham are 9th in the table. Oh, no, also Everton as well, who are 8th. United are 3rd, man. I am so annoyed Chelsea didn't win at the weekend. If Chelsea had won it against Arsenal, United would only have been 10 points behind Arsenal with the game in hand, and I'd have been if we continue winning and Arsenal and City both bottle it, we're gonna be there. No, that's my delusion. That's my delusion talking. My delusion is saying that United are still in the title fight if certain things happen, but it's not going to happen. I should be taking 3rd place. But anyway, that's football. Back to Formula 1. I just think Ferrari are going to bottle it. Dark horses. Now, I was going to jokingly say Aston Martin there, because the thing is, right, if you're in Aston Martin's shoes, you can't be any worse than you already are. So surely Aston Martin are not going to be any worse than people are expecting them to be, because some people are just expecting them to go out in FP1 and then the car just break down after about 5 minutes. Nah, I'm not going to say them as dark horse. That's a cop-out. That is an absolute cop-out. Who do I say as dark horses? It's difficult because, like, you've got premonitions, you've already got sort of preconceived ideas about it, and it's a bit tricky to figure out one, because there's some teams where it's like, okay, that they're probably going to be there. Saying Alpine are going to be quick isn't a hot take, let's say. I'm calling it, like, who I think is going to be the dark horse. Circa Turkey 2020 Euros. Sorry for that, like, flash of light there for anybody who has epilepsy, by the way. Don't know what that was. But and also anybody who's, like, neurodivergent like me who has sensitivity to stimuli. Sorry, I'm skipping the question. Who do I go for? I'm going to go Ollie Behrman and Haas. I think... No, I'm going to go Racing Bulls. I think Lindblad's going to get points on his debut. There's a hot shout. A hot take. I think Lindblad's going to get points on his debut. That is a hot take. But I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it right now. I think Lindblad's going to get points on his debut. I hope it's true. Because I do not want to look like an idiot. And then we have F2. So when I put out a question and answer on my Instagram for the podcast, and I only got one question, unfortunately, and that was, who do you think is going to win the sprint race and feature race in F2 and F3? So let's get straight into it. I think that the feature race winner in F2 is going to be Rafael Villagran. Nah, I'm joking. I'm going to go... See, it's difficult. There's 3 names that are screaming out to me, and that is Rafa Kamara, Alex Dunn, and Dino Boganovic. I'm going to say Rafa Kamara wins the feature race, and I'm going to say that Nikola Solov wins the sprint. And then Formula 3, I'm going to say that Freddie Slater is going to win the feature. And I'm going to say the sprint winner is going to be... Oh, that's tricky. I want to go... I think I'm going to go with one of the MP cars or Deligny, I think. Because I'm looking at the field and there's some drivers that I'm just immediately ruling out. I don't think it's going to be either of the Campos guys. And the reason why is because I think Niall and Ugochukwu are going to be like 5th or 6th fighting for the win. And I don't think that they'll be fighting for the sprint win. They'll be close, but I don't think they'll win it. So it's either, I think it's going to be one of the MP guys, or it's going to be Enzo Deligny, or maybe the Palou. It's tricky because, like, I think if I had to predict like the top 5, I'll tell you what, I think I can predict. Because the thing is, right, I am a feeder series journalist. I have got enough credentials to actually make this type of prediction. Okay. I actually have the credentials. I am a feeder series journalist. Like, I'm an actual writer on the feeder series, okay? Like, I actually work for a company, for a publisher, for an organization. Okay, I am a feeder series writer. I can actually like comment on this stuff. So I am going to say that the top 5 in the feature race is going to be Freddie Slater in first. I'm going to go TFL Niall in second. I'm going to go Matteo De Palou in third. I'm going to go Giusti in fourth. And I'm going to go Ugochukwu in fifth. That is going to be my top 5. And then I think also in the points is going to be Deligny, Tappinen, Kolnagi, Stromstead. And I'm going to go for... who do I go for the last point? Probably I'll go Pedro Claro for the last point. That is my prediction for I think I said Deligny for top 10 as well. So that's why I think I think Deligny or one of the MP cars is gonna win the sprint. I'm gonna say, who do I say for the sprint? Because the thing is, right, there's 5 options screaming at me. There's the 3 MP cars, there's Deligny and Pedro Claro. They're the 5 that are in my head. I'm gonna say Giusti. I reckon Giusti wins the sprint. I think Giusti wins the sprint and Freddie Slater wins the feature race. Because the thing is, like, Slater is just, he has got that championship name. Like, in my head, that man is going to be, I'm already, like, picturing that man in F1 in 2028. I am already picturing that man in F1 in 2028. That's how far ahead I'm already thinking of when it comes to him. Because he is that good. Like, he is, like, the best young talent out there, in my opinion. So he is, for me, gonna be the favorite this weekend. And I think Kamara's gonna be the favorite in F2, either him or Alex Dunn. And then I'm just trying to think if there's anything else on this weekend. I don't know if there is. That's sort of been a preview into that. I'm very much looking forward to the IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader. IndyCar is going to be on the 7th, NASCAR on the 8th, and the Australian Grand Prix is going to be on the 8th. Practice on the 6th. Qualifying on the 7th, and the main race on the 8th. So that is everything that is going to happen. If you want the times, I can give them to you. This is GMT, 4 a.m. for the race, 5 a.m. for qualifying, 1:30 for FP3, 5 a.m. for FP2, and 1:30 for FP1. And then it doesn't actually show the feeder series ones, but... I'll see if I can find it. Does the feeder series one come up? It does not, which is a bit annoying. Let's see, is this going to come up? I am trying to see if there is anything else. I don't think so. So that's going to be everything for today. Thank you very much for watching and listening to Faster Than I Built It with me, your host Liam Plutner. And next week we are going to be previewing the Chinese Grand Prix. We're going to be previewing the Streets of Arlington, I'm trying to see if there's anything else, and I think that's it pretty much, because there's a week's break for NASCAR. So that is going to be everything for today. I'm going to be previewing. Oh no, there is NASCAR. There's NASCAR at Vegas. So next week. I'm going to be reviewing this weekend's action and then previewing the Chinese Grand Prix, the Streets of Arlington IndyCar Street Race, the Las Vegas Motor Speedway NASCAR Cup Race, F1 Academy, F2, F3. And that is going to be that. Thank you very much for watching this podcast and listening to it. I have been your host, Liam Plutner. This has been Faster Than a Bullet, and I will see you all in the next podcast episode, which is next week. I'm hoping that this is going to be a regular thing, and I think next week we should be back in the studio. At the moment, there are strikes going on at the university that I'm at, so I can't actually film inside the studio because I've not got access to it at the minute. But thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next podcast. Goodbye!